Is it time to give anonymity to defendants accused of rape and other sexual crimes? What we find when we look at this issue is a topic which has been debated by Parliament and the courts a number of times over the last 40 years. In 1976, Parliament granted anonymity to both parties. In 1988, they removed anonymity from the defendant. And since then, we've seen a number of calls for that anonymity to be restored, most recently by the Coalition Programme for Government in 2010 and by Sir Cliff Richard only this year. And what we find when we look at these proposals is the same arguments being brought out repeatedly on either side. So those in favour of anonymity would suggest that there's a special stigma about rape which can be particularly damaging to the defendant even before he's charged with any crime. Those who would refrain from granting anonymity say that it's only by making public the identity of the defendant that vulnerable victims and witnesses can be encouraged to come forward. So what we need to do when we look at this issue is not to engage in another round of legislative ping-pong in which the law is changed in one direction only to change back in a few years' time. Instead, we need a solution which addresses the concerns of both sides. That's why what we should do is to grant anonymity to the defendant on an initial basis with the presumption that will lapse unless it is extended by the court. That allows for nuance in what is a very complex area. It prevents the wanton destruction of people's reputations. It preserves the principle of open justice, and it allows for publicity to be used where it is appropriate.